Somebody. All right, so we're just gonna wait a couple seconds, test the mics. I can hear you, you can hear me. Let's make sure that
Check,
nobody.
check.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, well, Chris, thanks a lot for coming in and explaining a little bit more about Techless. We're going to have a couple people here joining in just a second. And but for those who do not know you and are watching this on replay, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Who are you, and why did you decide to start this journey on Techless?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Chris. I am the founder of Techless. I've been working on this for about 2 years. Before this, I had a handful of other entrepreneurial journeys, startups that I was working on. And at the end of the day, they just felt meaningless. And I wanted to make something that could really just change the world and make an impact in improving people's lives with some of the most intimate devices, the phone, which is something that we really use. And I mean, I could dive into a little bit more of the story behind it if you wanted to, but I live in a small town in Texas. I've got a family, 4 daughters. And so I stay quite busy.
Okay, that's good to hear. I found out about Techless because I'm part of the community on Reddit called Lightphone. Lightphone Two community. Shout out to you guys. And we keep informed each other on different things, all things. Lightphone Two. That's the device I use and that I've been using for the past this past year. But one of the people on the Reddit, he commented, "Hey, have you guys checked out, the WisePhone?" And I checked it out. I went to the website probably like 2 days ago, or maybe yesterday even, and we started talking about it. It blew up, and then I started contacting you so we could set up this interview. But tell me, what is WisePhone? What is WiseOS? Just like what's the general thing that works in all of this?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, if you're familiar with Lightphone, you've got half the concept. So we basically took the concept of a phone that has no addictions, no distractions, nothing you can get addicted to. And we put it in a smartphone, a traditional smartphone body, but we created a complete operating software overhaul in a sense. So your user experience is very clean, very simple. I mean, the easiest way to do it is just show you one actually. And so I've got it here. I mean, clean, simple. We spent tons of time working on the design. And you can call, you can text. There's a few basic tools, but there's no games, no app store, nothing you can get addicted to. And we really designed it for two groups of people. We've got digital minimalists. These are the people that are using Lightphone. A lot of them are very tech savvy. And then also for families, that's sort of the other group. We built a couple features in that are kind of behind the scenes that make it pornography free, as well as like access to knowing what's going on the phone. So we have this family portal that people can log in and see location history, message history, call logs, and you can manage this phone remotely from any other phone or browser. So it's kind of a dual purpose system here.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying that it is both digital minimalist and also for parents, right? And for
Yes.
parental controls, right? Since you're advertising for parents specifically, what is it that you are focusing on? Like, how do the parents interact and with the phone? Do they control the whole child, or is it more kind of like half and half?
Yeah, yeah. So I think unpacking the whole parental controls, the heart behind it, I think you need to hear a little bit of our inspiration behind this
Hmm.
creating this phone. And my wife and I have done foster care for years. We've had 7 kids come and go in our house. And there was this night I remember where we had a couple girls, a 10 and 13-year-old girls dropped off at our house. And the caseworker looked at us and said, "Don't let these girls near anything that looks like a smartphone." And I'm not going to tell all the reasons why, that's their story, but man, they got themselves in some serious trouble. And we were struggling as parents because we wanted to give them freedom. We wanted to empower them. We didn't want to be these condescending, no, you can't have this type of foster parents. But we couldn't give them a smartphone. They're just not trustworthy. And, flip phones are actually some of the most vulnerable devices. They have no parental controls, and they're actually pretty dangerous, and they're a pain to use. And so we actually found out that Amazon Alexa was this really cool device for them because we could trust them with it. It was this non-visual interface to the internet. And so we just let them have it. And as a result, that freedom that we gave them and not watching everything that was going on really improved our relationship. And all of a sudden, this tech tension battle between can I do this and this and this, it just disappeared because it's built into the device. So our goal really is to improve relationships between parents and kids by having a device that's safe out of the box. Mom and dad can hand to them and not have to turn on 20 settings and check for app updates and look over your shoulder. And it's almost the anti Big Brother mentality, even though we have full transparency of what's going on in the device. So it's really about trying to improve the relationship, a simple solution for mom and dad that you can just trust, because no big tech companies right now are making things for parents specifically in mind. And so we're one of the first to market here.
Okay. So you have that focus, right? You have the parental focus, but also for people who want a couple of functions here and there. They don't want to have their phone have all of the apps in the world, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's kind of a surprise. I mean, we launched just a couple weeks ago, and we've actually had twice as many digital minimalists buy our phone than parents. So who knows? That will probably feed into our future product development here, but that's our current data. So
that's awesome. That's good to hear. I know a couple of the questions that the audience, I asked them to, put their questions before. But one of them is about maps. You guys are pushing out a maps update, right, to the phone coming soon. And they were wondering two things. Who are you working with if you can release, of course, like, I don't know if you have
sure.
some non-disclosures or things like that, but what is the maps provider? And then the other thing that goes with that is it true that the WisePhone can use maps without a data connection?
Yes. So Maps is probably top on our development priority. In fact, we actually just released it to production phones. We didn't tell anyone we released it, but if you go in your settings, you can actually turn it on. We didn't tell you because it's a little buggier than I would personally like for it to be, but it's functioning. It's there. And we're using TomTom as our data provider. They're solid. We kind of are really trying to stay away from Google everything. This is a completely Google free, as far as data sharing is concerned, phone, which is a pretty high accomplishment from a technical perspective. So yeah, TomTom, it works. I mean, and yes, it does work without data. You can download maps. As of today, no, but we're working our way into that. And the cool thing is, I don't know if you know this, but you guys are kind of technical on this channel. Your GPS chip is separate than your data antenna. And so your GPS actually works even when you don't have a data connection. And so your location tracking and everything updates real time. So yeah, you don't have a data plan and it functions properly.
Okay, awesome. That's good to hear. So is that you'll be able to download that, right? Like download
yes.
the apps offline.
Yeah, actually, so one of the things we have is we always push automatic updates invisibly. We're kind of anti-notification, and so stuff just appears on your phone. Like we did it. It's not installed on your phone. I mean, it's actually installed in the background, but you have to turn it on when you find out that it's available. So for the people watching this channel, here's a little sneak peek. No one knows that this is available on the phone until you go in your settings, turn it on, boom, there's the Maps app ready to go for you. So
okay. Awesome. And I would like to know a little bit more about how that works, because you're talking a little bit about, and as you guys are coming in, more people are coming in and watching, make sure that, put your questions down on the chat and we'll be asking Chris about it. But essentially you have a hardware that is not, you're not creating the hardware, right? You're creating the software that goes into the hardware.
Correct.
And I believe I read in your page that it says that you can only have certain features if you don't have your subscription, because you're pairing two components into the operating system, some basic components and some premium components. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that, and how do you come to that decision? There you go.
Sure. Yeah. So ultimately, when we first launched, we were entirely software. That was it. You put software on the phone and it works. But the truth is our target market was non-technical soccer moms, right? And we're trying to sell something very simple for them. So we shifted to selling it pre-installed on a phone, as opposed to you going and installing it yourself, because it just seemed intimidating. I mean, the idea of buying an operating software, it's a totally new product category and blew people's minds. So we started pre-shipping phones. And when we did that, at the heart of what we're doing, it's really software service. So we're selling you a phone with a year worth of software as service included. And so after a year, if you don't like it, no big deal. You're not totally screwed. Your phone still works. You can still make calls. You can still do text messages. You just don't get sort of this advanced functionality we have and are continuing to build that cost us money, from server cost, API cost. There's a handful of costs I could keep going through, even licensing fees for some proprietary stuff we have. But you still have a functioning device. And so at the end of the day, after a year, if you don't want to keep using it, no big deal. You still have a phone that works. So we figured that was kind of the happy medium for people.
Right. And the constant cost is $99, right?
Yeah, it's $100 a year is what we're going for. Yes.
So $100, and that covers maps, that covers all the premium stuff. So
Yeah.
what can you do if you don't have the Techless Connect? That's how you call it, the subscription. What can you do with the phone?
Sure. I mean, in a sense, yeah, call and text. Those are the big ones. So
okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot of syncing and context syncing, and basically our entire back end becomes invisible to you because that's what costs us money, but your phone still functions properly. So.
Okay. Now, can you discuss a couple of those things when it comes to the back end? I don't know if you have, again, NDAs or things like that, or you're working with something like that.
Sure. Yeah. So our backend really is probably the most unique aspect of what we're doing. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you don't see, but you feel it when you're using it. And so a couple things, like our apps are not hosted in the Google Play Store. And there's a lot of control we can do by that. Our software updates, all this type of stuff doesn't get pushed intentionally through Google. So there's some privacy things there, and we get to control things and prevent advertising from sneaking in through some weird back door, and just have really tight, robust controls over apps that you can't normally have in a typical device. The backend itself, we call it the Techless Family Portal, and I wish I could share my screen, but in a nutshell, it is designed for families mostly. And so mom and dad can log in and see, hey, here's where John is. Here's the messages he's been sending. Here's the calls he's received. Here's his location. Here's his battery life. If it gets too low, you can have a notification sent to you. One of the things we are working on is some on-device algorithms that do not use data. We're really building this thing from the ground up to not use data. And these algorithms detect pornographic imagery on the device. So if you get a text message or a sext message that comes in, before it's actually received or shown on the phone, it gets run through this algorithm, and depending on a couple settings of how conservative or not conservative you want to be, mom and dad have the choice of approving it, denying it, or if it's bad enough, it just doesn't even get noticed. Like mom and dad they just get an alert that says, hey, something really bad just happened. You should probably go talk to your kid. But it's pushing people towards relationship and sort of, kind of this intentional relationship. It's some very nuanced, sophisticated psychology behind what we're doing here. So we're not releasing stuff yet because we really want to be careful about these kind of intimate moments in family life.
Right. And that can get tricky because it's boundaries. And you're talking to the parents right now, and they will be more on like, well, I want to have control, but the child is also, well, I want to have control as well. So there's a little bit of give and go and stuff like that. And especially if I'm buying it for myself, I decide how much of that content I want, whether you guys believe is harmful, but I can disable it at the end of the day if that's what you want. It's that freedom of choice, I guess, that you guys have. I know a couple questions that the community has in terms of the hackability of the phone, right?
Sure.
A lot of people have asked me to ask you guys, okay, so you say that it's safe from being hacked by kids. What does that mean exactly? Does it mean that you cannot access, you cannot put a custom ROM? It seems that it's based on Android at a certain layer. So can you change the device and access all of those things?
So at the end of the day, every device that's not an iPhone is based on Android. The scanners at Walmart are based on Android. And the truth is, at the end of the day, yes, you can hack it. I'm not going to tell you how, and it's going to get tighter and tighter as time goes on and software development gets better. But what you can't do is hack it and you can't reinstall this thing. Like you can't flash a custom ROM and then let mom and dad know, hey, I mean, this is very much so a one-way gate. And so it becomes very obvious. You can't have two different modes for this phone. It's either on or it's off. And once it's off permanently. And you might even have to ship the phone back to us to put it back on. And so as far as protections are, we kind of consider the bike lock theory, right? If you have 3 locks on your bike, well, then someone's going to go steal the bike that has 1 lock on it. And so out of all the devices in the home, ours is the most secure. Ours is the least hackable. If a kid really wants to go do something, this isn't the easiest way for him to do it. He's going to go find it some other way. So it's the least vulnerable of devices out there.
Okay, I see. So you're saying that if you want to change it, you can change it, but it's no dual boot.
Yeah.
So it's like if you remove or if you put a custom ROM, automatically the Wise OS would recognize that somehow and be deleted, and then you just have regular Android.
Yeah. And so, there's a plus if you really hate it. Like you can wipe it and you can get a phone back and you have your device there that you can do whatever you want with.
Okay. So that's good. I see a couple of extra features. Can you tell me a little bit more about the future, and maybe then we can get into a little demo. You can showcase us a couple of features. And if you guys have questions, please put it in the chat and we'll ask Chris what your questions are. I know I have a couple of extra ones, but tell me a little bit more about the premium features that are coming up in the future for someone who may be on the fence or wants to, do something about it.
Sure. So like I said, we launched probably a couple weeks ago here. We're just coming out of the early access program, which is a bunch of people that are like, please ship us this phone quick. And we're like, there's still a few handful of bugs, and then like, just ship it to us. We're like, okay, so we've been shipping phones. But like I said, we've been surprised by the number of people in the digital minimalist camp, even though we built this primarily for families. And so we are listening, we're responding. I mean, if you guys have ideas, put them in the chat. I'm going to replay and watch this. I'm listening. We're paying attention. The biggest thing that rose to the surface is music, hands down. And we are trying to create something very healthy. And so we are, in a sense, trying to make controls for people to empower their wills. You can't just give people anything and everything, because that's what a normal smartphone is. You can do whatever you want. We're not doing that. We're setting controls at the device level. And I did a deep philosophical dive into music, and I learned that music actually helps people a lot. It helps people stay calm. It helps people focus. It helps people gain insight and knowledge, and et cetera, et cetera. So we are working right now on an audio app. It's going to be very basic to start with. We're kind of roll out in phases. Phase 1, it's just going to be a very simple app. You have songs or whatever music that you want. You put it on there, file based, which is crude, but it's something. and you can hit the play button. And so that's kind of our first step. And then we're going to work on making that more sophisticated. Again, you've seen maps, camera. We're going to work on some more, just taking advantage more of the things that are already built in some of these nicer phones, panorama mode. We're working on the algorithm. We haven't released that yet. And once our image detection algorithm is done, locked, signed, sealed, then we can open up a few more functionalities that are more image driven that we've sort of locked down, because we really want this. We're like borderline guaranteeing this thing is porn free. And so until that's not available, we're holding back on certain things. Okay.
And as you said, you're willing to listen to feedback. So anything that users really want, if there's like and it aligns with the values of the company, I would assume, then you will consider it at the very least. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, we're, like I said, the music app wasn't on the docket 4 weeks ago, and here we are. It's right up there with maps. So we're listening.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. I do have a couple questions when it comes to your compare chart. So you have a compare chart. If you guys go to techless.com/compare, you guys have a couple things there that it's interesting. So like one of the ones that always caught my attention was values-based design versus profit. Values, what does that mean? Because then we can talk a little bit about the cost, and that's where I see, and I hope that you can explain a little bit more of like, how does that work? And since you're not making your own hardware, how can you justify the price and things of that nature?
Sure. So a couple things. The word value, I should probably replace that with the word ethics, because at the end of the day, our company is really driven by a purpose. And actually, our shareholders are what I would call impact investors. They're not Silicon Valley venture capital firms whose goal is to take $1 and then turn it into 100. So we're not here to milk every dollar and squeeze out every penny of what we can do. We're here to change the world and improve people's lives and deepen relationship. And there are sacrifices that we can, will, and have make as a company that will lower our profitability in order to promote and bring this mission to life. So that's what I mean as far as profit driven. I mean, there's no advertising model. Maybe that's the best way to do it, but we're just not going there. We have kind of ethical and moral boundaries on what we're creating here. So that kind of speaks into that. Now, regarding pricing and hardware and the whole 9 yards, in a nutshell, hardware costs more than what people pay for it. Actually, our cost to buy phones in bulk is higher than what you're going to pay for at Walmart, because it's subsidized by carriers, because they know if you come in, notice that the unlocked phones, if you walk into Walmart, go in the unlocked phone section, there's not a single phone that costs under $250. That's because there's not a carrier incentivizing or subsidizing that hardware purchase. So just a piece of information for you. So as far as value is concerned, you know, and the other thing is, we're not trying to be a budget company. You know, one of our competitors that's kind of recently launched in the child category, they're selling a phone for $60. It's a piece of crap. I didn't say that. No, but we intentionally kind of want to take more of the Apple-esque approach, where we say we want to be a premium product, we want to have a premium price, and just deliver on this higher quality experience. And so even as I'm evaluating hardware to deal with, there's a threshold I'm not going to go below. So I'm confident that even the low-level device is worth something and has some good quality behind it. So I don't know if that answers the question in a nutshell, but there's a starting point at least.
No, and it seems that you picked budget devices on the Android camp, like, but you made sure that they were devices that had at least decent amount of compatibility and also decent specs for them to run your OS in a different way. Can you showcase us a couple of the features? Does it run faster on one of the phones than the other? What are some of the main differences because you have a 199, that's the WisePhone, then you have the 299 WisePhone Plus, and then you have the WisePhone Pro, which goes to $799, right? Like it's quite steep, the ranges. So which one do you think is what makes it better? What makes it different? And why should I invest $299, $199, or $799 on a specific device?
Sure. So the software on all of them is exactly the same. The bulk of the experience. So a lot of it comes down to personal preference, right? The 199 one is a little bit smaller. The screen isn't just quite as crisp and the colors aren't quite as, but I mean, you've got two colors, so it doesn't matter that much. The back, I feel like, is a little bit more of a composite plastic. The 299 one is just a slightly larger, crisper, I personally, this is my favorite. This is the one I carry around. This is the one I use, the 299 one. And then the big advantage for the WisePhone Pro, the most expensive one, this is just a solid phone. It literally got released like 2 months ago as far as hardware. So it's cutting edge technology. The big thing is the camera. It just takes amazing, amazing photos. It's actually small. It's the smallest of the three, or just a tiny bit smaller than the 199 one. And then the other difference is this comes with 3 years of software. So, which actually is a little bit of a discount on the software. So if you're like, hey, I know this is what I want to do, this is it, I'm committed, this is actually probably the cheapest, best option long-term for a really good piece of hardware that's going to last you for 3 years. So.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer. And as maybe a question is about long-term, as someone personally, whenever, and I will review the phone, I got the WisePhone, and hopefully I can get in the next couple of weeks, test it and give my review on it. But one of the things I always look for is durability, right? Like, is this phone, am I going to spend 199 plus 99 every year, after the first year, since the first one is free? Am I going to spend that? Is the phone going to break? Or like software wise, I'm not talking about hardware wise, because you can break your phone if you want to, but what about the hardware? How does that work? How long are you going to support? Maybe that's the question. How long are you going to support even the base models? Is it going to get replaced within a year or two? What's the vision?
So our goal is to maintain those price points, but to upgrade hardware within them as time goes on. So if we find another another budget phone. I wouldn't even call it a budget phone, a decent quality phone that can fit the criteria of the lower price point and improve upon it, then we'll just replace it and we'll probably keep the same name. It's somewhat hardware agnostic. So that's the nice thing about our business model is we can always offer you we're intentionally buying smaller amounts of inventory to ship to people just so that we can keep fresher hardware. So it's almost spec agnostic, our devices. I know that sounds funny, but our goal is to just always sort of keep those price points and keep you with the freshest device within those price points.
Okay. So $199, $299, $799, and whatever that is, you're just going to replace the hardware and improve the software. So
Exactly.
It seems to me that your selling point is more about the software than about the hardware.
Absolutely, yeah.
And talking about that software, like we said, is there anything like, I had a person explain to us today, or ask me today, how is YOS different than, how is YOS different than just putting Lineage, which is like, Android, kind of the purest Android without Google into my phone. Actually, we had one of the people on our stream ask, what is WiseOS? So can you explain what is the difference between WiseOS and all of these other Android ROMs or the light phone or, things of that nature?
Sure. So first, your audience is way more technical than 98% of our target audience. So I think that's an awesome thing. You have a really neat community of smart folks. And so from y'all's perception, there may not be huge differences, but from a consumer's perspective, I'm talking a soccer mom who fights with her printer every day. We are selling some high level kind of abstract thoughts. And these abstract thoughts are trust, transparency, simplicity. So they can buy it. It's simple and they hand it to their kid and that's it. As opposed to so many of these other systems, flashing your own ROM on your phone. You can do it. If you can, more power to you. Go for it. Most people can't. It's just a crazy, intimidating idea and concept. In fact, we actually launched software only and just realized our conversion rates weren't as high as they were because just the very idea of flashing software that we made it as easy as possible. However hard it is to put on Lineage, we made it easier. My wife can do it and she's non-technical at all. Even the concept itself was just daunting, intimidating, and threatening to a lot of our target audience. So we're just making it very accessible and easy for people. So that's probably the simplest answer.
Okay. And again, for the question, how would you define WiseOS, and why do you call it WiseOS? Actually, why the WisePhone, WiseOS? Why the name?
Yeah, so I mean, the whole concept behind WisePhone is what's better than being smart. You all know smart people that are too smart for their own good, but at the same time, they bumble around life and actually don't accomplish what they should. And there's so much greater potential they have in their life. I mean, the goal with WisePhone is it's better to be wise than it is to be smart if you have to pick between one of the two. And this is a wise decision. It takes intentional sacrifice. It's counterintuitive. It's counter-human behavior. Like, it's not entertaining for me. It's boring. It's inconvenient on some levels. I mean, using a light phone, you have to do stuff in life that just is kind of sucks sometimes. But what you gain at the end of the day is precious. It's so valuable. And so that's the concept behind the name Wise. It's seeking this treasure that's more important than what's flashing right in front of our eyes. And so WiseOS is just the name of the software that we put on a Wise phone, but it's pretty simple.
Yeah. Some people are asking, is there a website to see the phone? And I will put it in it's techless.com,
yep.
Right?
Techless.com, all one word.
Techless.com. Can you show us, so right now, what does it work on the phone? Can you show us one of the devices and what does it work? If I were to just buy it today, what is it? What is it that you are looking for? Or
sure.
What works, what doesn't work, what is coming in the near future? And the next question I will say is can I put this on my own device if I wanted to?
Yeah. So right now you can't put it on your device. We would rather provide a rock solid experience for people. So we've limited our device development just to 3 phones, the 3 that we're selling. So initially that was our plan, was to open it up to the world, but it just got too complicated. And we said, this is simpler. We're just going to make it work this way. And as far as what's on the device, I can show you in a nutshell. This is a production phone, not staging. So this is actually what we're selling. We've got a clock, a calculator, maps is in beta, cameras in beta, settings. I can dive into that if you want. And then you've got calls and messages. And so it's very simple. The camera itself takes photos. They go to a gallery. We're working on a process where they upload to the portal so you can access them from the family portal as well.
Okay. And I know a lot of companies are moving towards that. I actually, when I use the light phone, the main reason why I still use this every day is because I have Verizon, and Verizon has messages that I can access really quickly on my computer, and I'm able to send back and forth. Sometimes I may not have the time to use the light phone all the time, right? But essentially, do you plan to do messaging and calling from the web as well, or is that a main?
No, currently not. I mean, I can throw it in the list for consideration, but we haven't had anyone ask us for that yet. Like kind of iMessage type thing. So for now, it's just from the device only. In fact, one of the things that we're selling is, because it's really simple, we're selling it to where you can use it without a data plan, which actually presents huge savings for families. So you can buy a $7 a month data plan through like US Mobile. And I mean, it's $7 a month phone plan that has calls and messages, or $10 tops, and it works. So there's a massive amount of savings as far as not having to pay for data. So at the end of the day, the cost is actually at or even below what a typical smartphone would cost.
Okay, so you're saying that the functions, or most of the functions, you're trying to make them data less, so
Yep.
that you can only have, like, for example, if you buy a SIM card from, actually, I was reviewing this earlier today, or yesterday, US Mobile, right? Like, one of the best carriers.
You
We're
got
not
it.
sponsored,
No, yeah,
but
we've talked with their director of development a handful of times. We've talked about maybe doing a partnership with them. So yeah, they're
oh, okay,
good.
cool. Well, they're a great company, and honestly, they provide very good rates. So you're like,
Mhm.
if you have unlimited talk and text for $10, that's it. That's all you need.
You got it. Instead of paying $35 a month, now you just take that other $25 a month you were going to pay times 12. You just save $600. Okay, I can buy a phone. That's how the math kind of works out for us. And just to give you some context on the whole data syncing, it's pretty robust. This is it's behind the scenes. We're using encrypted text messages, and that's how we are transferring literally message log, call log, location history, heartbeat. All this stuff is getting communicated without data, which is a pretty neat thing if you really think about it.
That's awesome. I would like to ask a question from the audience. They say, what is the point of the Pro? The most expensive one, $799. If we want to keep the phone experience as simple as possible. So if somebody were to say, hey, you have the WisePhone, the WisePhone Plus, and the WisePhone Pro, why do I pick the Pro instead of all the other ones?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to call a phone that calls and texts, and that's it, then I would go with one of the base two models. And after a year, that's what you'll have, is a phone that calls and texts.
Mhm. And the Pro, the reason why to buy it is because better camera and the 3 years, I think, of the subscription
Yeah,
model.
you get a 3-year subscription to Techless Connect, which is a lot of the advanced functionality. It's kind of the back end system that's mostly designed for parents at this point. But yeah, that's the main reason.
Okay, sounds good. Taz is asking, are the Wise phones available in Switzerland, France? Are you shipping worldwide? Is it US only? What's the plan for that?
Yeah, so we've gotten tons of requests from like Australia and Sweden and Switzerland. And here's the deal. We're not shipping technically internationally, but we're starting doing tests internationally. So if you're one of the people listening right now, we have capacity for one person per country. So Switzerland, if you're the first person from Switzerland that reaches out to us, we can sell you a phone, and it will have a full refund. If you don't like it, it doesn't work. I'm not guaranteeing any technical issues. I think it will work just fine. Honestly, the hardware we've done the research, the technical specifications. I don't anticipate any surprises. It should work just fine. But worst case scenario, mail it back, full refund. But yeah, first person for each country, reach out to our customer service and we can send you a phone. It's not an official sale though. So second person, sorry, you're out of luck.
We'll have the details for contact for you at the end of the interview. We just have a couple of extra minutes.
Yeah.
Again, if you guys have any questions, just put it there. I'm trying to understand a little bit more about the value that you're proposing, for prospective buyers. Let's say, I mean, I have 3 phones right here with me. So I have the light phone, right? this phone that I've been testing is just a flip phone, that has WhatsApp, right? A lot of people use WhatsApp outside of the States. Outside of the United States, texting is a thing of the past, essentially. Do you guys consider, those instant messaging platforms that are technically replacing SMS, something for the future? Something that you guys are trying to do for the future?
Yeah, so long term, and this is like 2-3 years out here. The goal for us is what's healthy for people, and so we're constantly asking ourselves that. And so, if in the future there's a handful of practical tools that come out that have proven themselves healthy and trustworthy and porn-free, family-friendly, we have this kind of much higher bar than the Apple or Google stores do, as far as criteria, then we might, no promises, might allow some of that functionality to enter. But currently right now, we have an extremely rigid UI design. I mean, we've spent 6 months with some of the best UI designers in the world. You go on dribble.com and type in UX UI design. The first guy that pops up is a guy named Eddie Lobanowski, and we're on calls with him once or twice a week, still working on design stuff. So we are not bending design to accommodate all these additional apps at this point, but it's not totally off the table either.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And I like that you guys are opening up and to feedback. I think that's always important. Sometimes I come in contact with companies, and especially in the digital minimalist space, and it's just like, well, it's our vision or nothing. This is a personal question. I honestly, one of the reasons why I keep my light phone is because of the podcast feature. I'm a podcast listener. I listen to podcasts pretty much every day. You guys consider that in the future, or what is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think as evidenced by our shift into the audio app, I'm calling it audio, not music, because technically if you wanted to, it will be a pain in the rear to start with, but if you want to download podcasts and drop them on there, you can. So I think philosophically we're on board with that. It's just a matter of dev prioritization and spend for us. So.
Okay, good to know. Well, again, guys, we just have a couple of extra minutes. I'm going to throw you a question from the Reddit post. So there was, again, big conversation on Reddit, on the Lightphone subreddit about you guys, it literally blew up. It has about 50 comments or 54 comments as of right now. And it was
I have to check it out.
Yeah, you'll have to check it out. And a lot of people are, thinking about like, okay, so what is it that separates you on the data manipulation stuff? Because right now we know everything goes through a server somewhere, right? It goes through a server in China and the United States and France and Switzerland, wherever it is. How can we, because we're trusting you, right? Like one of your
Sure.
taglines is trust, transparency.
Yep.
Of course, you probably will not be able to disclose all of the server locations in the United States or wherever you have them. But how can I trust that, what you tell me is true? How can I verify that is the, from a technical level, since essentially, you're saying, well, the soccer mom or, a non-technical user, just to call it for that, will not be interested in this. But how can I trust that you're actually telling me that everything is US based and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I don't know, other than disclosing server locations, which we can do. I mean, in a sense, if this tells you anything, we're gearing up to chase Department of Defense contracts. If there's anybody who's anal about where servers are located in data privacy, it's Department of Defense. So if we clear their hurdles, then you don't have to worry about anything. So there's kind of a half answer for you. I mean, at the end of the day, just know that we're dealing with some of the most sensitive issues in people's lives. I mean, like our foster daughters that I mentioned earlier, I mean, they were dealing with some really weird stuff through their phones. And I mean, I know that we are going to be handling sex messages, and we've already gotten calls from bullying and like all kinds of weird stuff involving criminal cases already. And at the end of the day, we just don't have access to this stuff. It's double encrypted. I mean, in flight, everything's encrypted. On the servers are encrypted. I had a mom calling me, pleading, hey, please get my son's text messages for me because he was bullied and we need to prove it in court. And I'm like, I can't help you. I literally cannot see this stuff no matter what. The key is gone. So from a personal perspective, I can share. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And we also have third-party auditors come in and double check our security. We've got a guy in Germany that's double checking stuff blindly. He's not connected to our dev team, and so far we're doing good. So.
Okay, so essentially you're encrypting the communication for everything that I assume this is for the premium features, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is everything for the premium features.
Yes.
Um, okay, well that's great. I mean, it's good to hear. I'm going to test it out in the next couple of weeks. I'm excited to test it out and see, and I'll give you guys a review for those of you who are watching. Isaac asked another question, and are you going to be selling cases for the phone, or will it be a third party?
So right now we're not selling cases. You can find them on Amazon for the models that we're selling reasonably cheap, and that's a pretty simple solution. So we're not competing with Amazon at this time.
Sounds good. Two more questions since we're running out of time. What would you say is the main difference or aim between the light phone and the WisePhone?
Yeah. So WisePhone is designed to be slightly more practical, daily use, permanent. This is my full-time device. The keyboard's just a little bit easier to use. It's not perfect yet. You'll probably find that in your review. But and then the other big difference is that we have a faster pace and speed of development because we're not worried about hardware. We have 100% of our focus on the user experience and software and the design. And so as a result, we can kick out stuff quick. And we've already, like I said, we just released the Maps app. We're working on a music app. Our iteration of improvement is substantial, even with a dev team that's probably the same size as Lightphone. So.
Okay, awesome. Last question is from your compare. Again, techless.com/compare. You said here that you have no Chinese manufacturing and no Chinese development, but some of these phones are from Samsung and Google. So what are you referring to when it comes to that specific area?
Yeah, so we've actually spoken directly with manufacturers, and a handful of them have been Chinese, and we've stayed away from them. So Samsung is not, as far as their core manufacturing or their core assembly. Of course, there's going to be Chinese parts. There's always Chinese parts in every single consumer electronic out there. So we're not a total ban here. But what I think our purpose in sharing that information, and HTC is the other manufacturer, and I think I forgot what country they're in, but it's not China. And the purpose of us sharing this is there's not going to be some surprise bug or some surprise, there's no nasty little surprises that could be happening with Chinese manufacturers traditionally. Right. So that's our purpose in sharing that.
I guess you're talking mainly about, some of the scandals that have happened with cybersecurity and things of that nature in the past.
Security leaks, et cetera. It's difficult to regulate these types of things. And even some of our competitors in the family space are using Chinese manufacturers that we intentionally said, hey, you know what, we're not going to go there at this point right now. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, Chris, thanks a lot for, just coming in and talking about the different things of WisePhone. I hope this is going to be a resource for people. And, you guys look out for my review. It'll be coming in the next couple of weeks as I get the phone. And again, it is available for the first person internationally, right?
So per country.
Per country,
yeah.
Per country,
yes.
right? Per country,
yes.
First person per country internationally. Are you trying to just test the bands with those people and get the compatibility?
Yeah, we don't want to deal with international sales. So this is technically a test from a tax perspective. So it's going to be a different payment processing method. The whole 9 yards. It's going to be a little different than a typical sale. But just the way to reach out is send an email to hi@techless.com. Our customer service people read that. I read that. So if you have feedback for us, suggestions, bring it on. hi@techless.com. International orders, go there. That's the way to reach us.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Chris. Appreciate your time. Just discussing a couple things here and there from the WisePhone and the WiseOS and the community and everything that you guys are doing. Well, props to you. I'm kind of interested to see how it pans out. I'm excited to see how you guys do all of this filtering and all of this data center stuff. I think I'm excited to see a device that is based on an Android model, but that respects a little bit more. It's more into the it's more into the kind of privacy, digital minimalist space and stuff like that. Again, can you repeat the contact info for the company, and maybe people can get you feedback and stuff like that, and they can start talking about that stuff?
Sure. Yeah. Questions, comments, hi@techless.com, hi@techless.com, and we will guarantee read it.
Okay.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Jose. It's been a blessing. It's been great getting to know you. And thanks for all the insightful questions.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you guys have any other questions, please make sure to direct them to Chris. He's open, as you guys have seen. He talks about pretty much everything that you guys have asked. And essentially, whatever comes out, I'll be getting the phone in the next couple of weeks, and I'll let you know how easy it is to hack it. But as Chris said, over the next few years, you're hopefully trying to lock it down as much as possible, so it's unbeatable by kids, essentially. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. See you guys.